we are wired to believe or chase a certain idea of happiness. We don't want discomfort. We constantly want 24/7 bliss and happiness. And when discomfort arises, we run away from it.
And coming from this long line of, gurus and of spiritual advisors, what we are now seeing so much within that community and within that culture is incredible teachers, but also incredible abuses of power in some situations.
If you're reaching out to me to learn to meditate, you don't need me, because it will take 5 minutes. What's meditation? It's breathing. Again, a brand will complicate meditation. They have to sell the meditation program. So in reality, meditation is as simple as breathing.
We're going to have a good time. I remember to put some powder on this time, Andy, so that I don't shine all over the place.
When I'm talking to you, I'm just looking at you, right? I don't need to
Nope.
there. Awesome.
Chamunda Swami.
Swami. And once you say his name once, after that you can simply say Swami Ji.
I just say your dad.
Yeah, your dad. Even better. Oh, even better. Yeah.
I'll say Daddy Swami.
Right. That could be
The OG Daddy Swami.
right. The daddy Swami.
Chamunda Swami.
The mic doesn't catch, right? If I just move the right, it does. Okay. Because I had coffee in case I burp or something. I just want to.
Planning on that?
That happens especially in podcasts.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Chandresh. He likes vertical, but because he's Indian, he can't say vertical because he can't say V's.
Right. Yeah, there are certain words with
Can't say
vertical, but
See?
yeah. Now I have to really, really try hard.
My guest today is Chandresh Bhardwaj, a spiritual advisor, mentor, and meditation teacher to the stars. I met Chandresh many years ago, and he was my mentor and my spiritual advisor for some time. And after many years, he's now my friend too. And he's here today to tell us many of the secrets and the mystique around spiritual advisors, meditation teachers, and gurus. Hi, Chandresh, welcome.
Thank you, Anushka. Honored to be here.
I was so excited that you were coming today. It's been such an amazing relationship that we've had for so many years.
Yeah.
And I just feel so grateful to be part of watching you on your journey and having you witness my journey too, on a professional and on a spiritual level. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I share the same emotion. I've seen you evolving, empowering, blooming into a very aware, evolved woman. So this is your chapter 2.0 or 3.0 at this point. I don't know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of the things that's so interesting to me, having known you and learning about your lineage with coming from a lineage of spiritual advisors and gurus. And I find that so interesting because you're the only person I know in your family, but I know that your father, Chamunda Swami, is a very revered spiritual advisor. So I wonder if you can tell me a little bit about the history.
So I grew up in a very interesting, household. Every day we would casually discuss about tantra, spirituality. And I genuinely thought at that point, that's how every breakfast conversation is in all my friends' houses. I got to know my family is a bit different when I started hanging out at my friends' places. I'm like, they're not talking about Goddess Kali. They're not talking about meditation. So it might just be my own, little home. That's where it's all happening. I feel obviously deeply honored to be born in this family because you can't choose. I mean, sages and mystics will say you can choose and you did choose. But this body, this brain, I have no memories. Maybe my past life, I did choose this. I have a very warm memory of my best friend who, passed away when I was here in New York. He was in India. I was at his place and we were in 5th grade and we were watching his family album. And in his family album, my grandpa was there and my friend's dad was taking his blessings. I'm like, oh, that's grandpa. And my friend's dad, they were like, oh, he can't be your grandpa. He's, so and so, His Holiness Guru. I'm like, no, I know, but that's my grandpa. And they were like, no, it can't be, because they thought, our son's friend, I mean, he's just, is his buddy. But then I started telling them stories about my grandpa, and they told me, they said, you have no idea what family you come from. And I was in third grade or fifth grade, because I changed the school after that. So it cannot be beyond that. And then I started to have glimpse of the lineage. I never used this word also for like so many years, but it is a lineage. And for me, in simple words, it's just been a journey, an experience where this lineage taught me to become my own canvas. Because although it's a lineage, and the popular narrative is when you are in a lineage like this, you have to take on the next role. And many people think that's why I do what I do. But that's not the reason. My father, who's my guru, my teacher, he never ever told me you have to be a teacher. That was never part of conversation. I was the one who told him, I think I want to experiment with this. Experiment was the word. And I was working in Manhattan at the time.
Right.
In
You were working in finance, right? Yeah.
But he said, okay, you want to do this? Think again, because once you step into this, you may have no social life. You may not. I was like, I don't think I already have a very active social life. I'm very introvert, and I think this is the path I want to be on. So it all started with, I call this great experiment with my courage, because I really felt a calling within, or this restlessness within, and I had to explore it.
Yeah. We talk about transgenerational trauma on like a cellular level. Do you think that also translates within your lineage, this transgenerational sort of path to enlightenment?
It's a full package. There are many things I do which were done by my grandfather or great grandfather. The major example is I blend in poetry with spirituality. So grandpa, although he passed away when I was 4 years old, he translated a lot of the spiritual text into poetic text in different languages, Arabic, Farsi, Urdu. He was very educated teacher. So I do many things that they have done. It's just a soul memory. At the same time, I also feel, yes, I mean, trauma, universe is very non-biased, I think. So it's going to give you exactly what it's giving to others. The playground is the same. So I also, the more I got to know about my lineage, about my family, the more I got to know, oh, this is why I'm so emotionally sensitive, because dad is very sensitive. Grandpa was very sensitive. Oh, this is why I get so obsessed with the idea of divinity, because when I read grandpa's writings, I'm like, oh, he was that way. So the pain, the restlessness, but also the enlightenment, awakening, it's a full package. I can't choose one. There came a point I had to really understand this is the full platter. I got to have it all. Yeah.
So since you worked in finance and then you got this, you had an epiphany that you wanted to move back into follow in your father's footsteps?
I never thought of it, father's footsteps. I was 22 or so. If anybody would have told me now is the time to follow your father's footsteps, that would have freaked me out, because my father works very hard, no days off. He's, his generation, they just work really hard. I'm not that person. I mean, I work hard, but I can't compare my journey to him. And also, I feel my way of seeing spirituality is different than him. So is his way was different than grandpa.
Right.
And it never started with, I'm going to follow his footsteps. It started with, I'm unhappy in finance, in stock market. I want to explore the writing. Writing was the only thing I was really passionate about. And I started writing spiritual articles in a business newspaper in University of New York, CUNY, City University of New York. And from there, I started getting this spark that I want to write and I want to explore what it means to be this mystical poet, different new perspectives. But my father, he pushed me into very interesting right directions. I wouldn't have done that if it wasn't for him. And he was the one who till this date continues to empower me that you'll not walk on my footsteps. Learn from my mistakes. These are his words. Learn from my mistakes, but do not follow blindly the footsteps. Of course, I think once in a while when the dad hat steps in, he's like, follow my footsteps. What the heck you are doing?
Yeah.
But as a teacher,
Yeah.
he's super empowering. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, he's still just your dad as well,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And everything that comes with that, like a normal dad, there are areas where
Many areas. Let's just say that.
many areas, exactly.
Yeah.
You said that that you were in pain in what you were doing. Do you feel like a lot of spiritual journeys begin with being in enough pain to make changes?
That's one way of saying it. Pain is involved, but I think it's the wake up call that really happens. Unfortunately, that wake up call involves pain because we are wired to believe or chase a certain idea of happiness. We don't want discomfort. We constantly want 24/7 bliss and happiness. And when discomfort arises, we run away from it. But I love what Buddha said, about this. I was at a monastery in New York on 31st of December. So I was sitting with a lama, a monk. He said, the whole tragedy is people keep chasing happiness and avoid discomfort. But the truth is, life is a series of uncomfortable moments with bliss, happiness, pleasure showing up. But we don't, respect that happiness because we are so obsessed with a shiny idea of happiness. So I feel that pain, yes, you're correct. It does start with pain, but for me, it's almost a wake up call that, oh, this was all circus. I was an illusion that this circus is life. So I was not getting out of circus. I was just becoming a new clown every day, trying to please everyone, coming up with new tricks.
Right.
It's all circus. So for me, these moments happened various times in my 20s, teens also, but I think, yeah, really in my 20s. And it just helped me rediscover what my expression is in this path also. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, when anyone looks at your website or looks you up, there's a lot of talk of tantra. And I think for the layman, for most people out there, when they see the word tantra, it's associated with sex. So I just want you to explain what tantra is.
Yeah. The word tantra means science.
Right.
So the Wi-Fi that people are, using right now to watch this talk, it's a tantra. There's Wi-Fi is tantra. And when we use word tantra in spirituality, we are really referring to science of self-awareness. And the way sex walks in or becomes a conversational topic in tantra, that's only because tantra says do not repress any part of you. That includes your anger, greed, shadows, sexual desires, and energy. And it's a full package again. Tantra says you don't need to chase it outside. This is the temple. Now, when the marketing steps in, capitalism steps in, they want to pick the most spicy topic. And many times, the marketing ideas become the truth eventually because you keep repeating and the crowd believes this is the truth. It happened with yoga. I mean, everybody thinks it's just physical movement. So no one bothers to go deep within. And that has become the most accepted definition of yoga, right, in the mainstream. Same thing happened with Tantra, or same tragedy happened with Tantra. No one is bothered to understand Tantra as a deeper science of self-realization. I mean, my second book was rejected because I didn't want to make it a spicy introduction to Tantra. They said, this is what sells. And that's why I started the podcast, by the way, because Tantra teaches self-expression. It doesn't teach that you shrink in and you obey the crowd blindly. That's not what Tantra is. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, is that, I think a lot of people have a preconception of what Tantra is, what meditation is, what being spiritual is even. And I think it's important to give people the true definition from somebody who really understands and has walked that path, you know, of what it means to walk a spiritual path. Because I think for most people, including myself, when I first started on my journey of meditation, on my journey of being curious about spiritual growth, I was chasing the enlightenment, the perfection, right? And in that chase, I was frustrated and I was judgmental of myself. And then I realized that it's in fact it's not the destination, it is the journey.
Yeah.
Would you say that's kind of?
Absolutely. And again, this is, I think, the chase of the mind. They want some perfect idea of destination, right? But it's a process. It's an experience. The moment you embrace and accept that meditation isn't supposed to help you arrive at that perfect spot, that's when the game changes.
Right.
Because Tantra is all about transcending the mind. And mind is identity, information, and memory. And if you notice, so much of our trouble and conflicts happen because of these three things. Our identity, which brings in ego, conditioning, information. So information about money, relationships, success, failure. And then the memory you have, the muscle memory, the body memory, the brain memory of what happened when my, friend did this, or my father did this, my mother did this. So the mind scares you that it didn't happen with them. How dare you think it's going to happen with you?
Right. I love it. So it's identity, information, and memory. Yeah. So back in the day, before I got sober and before I really even had any concept of even what I wanted, let alone being on a spiritual journey, I went to do a Vipassana meditation for 10 days. Wow. I think I was 22 years old, maybe. Wow. And I mean, it was a hellish experience for somebody who actually thought I was going on vacation. And I brought my bathing suit and I didn't realize that this was a silent 10-day segregated
Where was it?
retreat. It was in Wales, in England.
Okay, got it.
And the weather was awful too. So, even worse. But I remember hearing, even though most of the time I was just in spiritual, physical, and mental anguish, because I was sitting with myself with all these, as the teacher would say, all these cravings and all these aversions, and being stuck in the middle with my cravings and with my aversions and unable to escape them because I was sitting in silence for so long. And although that experience was not the greatest at the time, it planted a seed for me in this concept that all suffering comes from craving or aversion.
That's so true.
Yeah.
I actually wrote something this morning and I published it on Instagram that sex is the hidden craving in the name of love, really. But we don't want to sit with the sexual energy. We want to numb it, release it. It's a sexual sneeze that we are part of, but Tantra says sit with it. Are you angry? Are you having surge of desires? And
yes, all of those right now.
Right? And Tantra will say sit with it. Sit with it. What I loved about Tantra, and I think it gave me a lot of strength in my teenage years, the self-acceptance. It's a big part of it, that you don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to be positive. You simply have to be you. It doesn't spiritualize things. Like religion, in Eastern religions, the goddesses are very obedient, very sweet. They're serving patriarchy. I never connected to it. In Tantra, the goddesses are not sweet, not obedient.
Right.
They dismantle the patriarchy. It's very rebellious, unconventional form of spirituality. And I think the rebellious part of me as a teenager felt very empowered just seeing that happening. And till this date, and that concept is still relevant. And the funny thing is, I used to think, I live in a small town in the Himalayan region. So this is just my small town conditioning. But after I moved to New York from that small town, I was like, that's a New York thing also.
Right.
Now I'm in LA. That's a LA thing also.
Actually, it's a human
It's a
thing.
global thing. It's a human
thing.
thing. Yeah. We all are suffering from that conditioning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I have discovered myself is when you sit with a feeling, whatever the feeling is, whether you label it as a good feeling or you label it as a bad feeling, and the truth is that's just an illusion. There are just feelings, there are just thoughts.
Yeah.
None of them, we assign value to them, right? But when you sit with a feeling, no matter how intense that feeling is, and no matter how good you label it or bad you label it, all feelings change if you sit with them.
Yeah.
And I forget what the amount of time is, but someone has kind of like measured it that no feeling lasts longer than about 20 minutes or something. But the intensity is so great sometimes that you're unable to sit through it. So you take an action that brings on a still worse feeling, or a feeling that you assign as worse, because you take an action on a feeling before you've allowed it to fully ruminate, fully process.
Yeah. And this is why I'm not a big fan of quickly jumping onto labeling things. Like there's a word in the Tantra called Sakshi Bhav, which means witnessing. That's the simplest translation. It says witness. So what that feeling is, witness. And you're so correct. If you witness, it's going to fade away like a cloud moving by.
Right.
It does not stay there for too long. And I've seen that with anxiety. I've seen that with anger. I mean, people always tell me you have such a calm energy. I don't get flattered because I've seen my life. I've seen parts of me. I was not the calm person. I'm a Leo. So Leo tend to be aggressive, short-tempered. I was all of that. And somehow the culture I grew up in, and I think this is the thing with a lot of men, they take anger as a sign of like pride, that I'm angry man. And angry young man is some sort of macho hero. So I always embraced and even amplified that appearance.
Right.
But it took, of course, spirituality, life to happen, to realize anger is actually such an interesting like mask I'm putting on. But sitting with the feeling, that's the real macho thing I could do. And it's still a process. I'm still sitting with it, and it's beautiful, honestly.
That is so true. I mean, as a woman in relationships, romantic relationships, and or even friendships with men, I noticed this huge difference in the way that men respond to problems. And when you talked about being a witness to something, to a feeling, to your own feeling, or even to someone else's problem, that just resonates so much with me, because when I have a problem and I tell a man about it, usually the instant reaction is, without even really thinking or experiencing or witnessing, the reaction is, I'm going to tell you what to do, right? And the last thing that women want is to have someone who hasn't really thought about it tell them what to do, because usually what we're looking for is a witness.
Yeah. I think women are looking for presence, and men have such a tough time giving presence to women. I see men as the mountain, mountain is there, and you see the wildflowers on the mountain. That's the feminine. The wildflower just wants to stay on the mountain.
Right.
It doesn't want mountain to preach. This is the perfect spot, or you should be there, or there's too much wind. No, let things be. And I call it the rooted masculine. It's rooted, it's composed, it's calm, it gives you presence.
Right.
And then the feminine will dance. And I always say this, give woman a sense of safety, presence, and warmth, and watch her bloom, because she will bloom after that.
But I suppose in order to give a woman a sense of safety, you have to give yourself a sense of safety first.
1000%,
Yeah.
And that's where it gets twisted, because it would also be crazy if I start to give you presence and safety, but I have none of it within. Right. It's like two homeless, sitting on Hollywood Boulevard, promising each other home.
Right.
But they both don't have any home.
I loved it when Marianne Williamson used to say the best way to help homeless people is to not be one of them.
Yeah.
So,
that's so true.
or poor people, right?
Yeah.
And, when you were talking about yoga earlier and talking about this sort of like empowerment of both men and women, and coming from this long line of, gurus and of spiritual advisors, what we are now seeing so much within that community and within that culture is incredible teachers, but also incredible abuses of power in some situations. I mean, you and I were talking the other day about the documentary on Yogya Bhajan and Guru Jagat, and how horrifying it is when we sort of pull the covers off people who name themselves as gurus, but then abuse their power.
Yeah. I'm going to say something that's even uncomfortable for me to express. Watching that documentary brought a lot of pain, emotions of discomfort, but surprise was not one of those emotions. I was not surprised at all. I spent many years in LA doing public teachings, classes, and I would see on every Sunday, especially, there would be students in my class wearing all white and like, we are going to Guru Jagat's class. You should come there. And I've never gone there. And I would tell them, and some students will ask, what's your take on this? About this Kundalini thing. Well, that's not Kundalini.
Right.
Kundalini, again, like Tantra, it's a term for energy, but what you are going for is a brand. That's a brand. It has butchered. I grew up in Punjab in India, right? Sikhism, the Sikh religion, is major part of where I grew up. So I have friends and who are like family. Sikh religion has always been part of this. I'm like, what I see this brand doing is butchering the teachings of Sikhism and Tantra. It's neither right now.
Right.
And when I saw that documentary, and I've seen many, so many, not just on Kundalini, but on these spiritual cults. And I feel, and I've been saying this, if you want to see a change in the way spiritual industry operates or this whole wellness space operates, you as a seeker have a responsibility. And your responsibility is to demand authenticity. Like if I buy a ticket for a crap movie, horrible comedy, like if I keep buying ticket for Hangover 3, they won't bother making Hangover 1. They're like, people are buying tickets for 3. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And this is what happens with many spiritual cults. When they know they are buying this again and again, why bother creating something authentic? And this was such a resentment in me in my earlier years, in my 20s, because I come from this lineage where authenticity was such a big deal, and still the biggest deal. Like this is a big topic in my family of being authentic, and it used to frustrate me because I lived in LA, and now I'm again here, and I was like, Dad, your ideas sound great, but there's no buyer for this. No one wants authentic Tantra. It used to frustrate the heck out of me in those days, because there were years I was struggling to even like live in a city like LA. I'm like, I think I should just go back to New York. But there was also voice within. When I calmed down, when the rooted masculine will join me, I would realize, oh, this is just a panic, because you have to pay bills. So calm down, relax, keep doing what you're doing, and your time will come. And I think now I feel a lot more content with what I'm doing.
Yeah. And you seem it too, actually. And I mean, when I watch that documentary, when I learn about the abuse of power within spiritual communities, particularly, it enrages me as a survivor myself. When I see the type of grooming, the type of manipulation that's used in the name of spirituality, in the name of God, it is one of the most horrific betrayals that you can impose on a person, And I'm wondering, like, if people are wishing to go on I feel as though most people who are embarking on a spiritual journey, maybe they're in pain, maybe they're suffering, and that makes them vulnerable and susceptible. So what would you say to look out for, to make sure that you're going into a path or learning with a teacher who has authenticity, who has integrity?
I feel, especially now, I think even the seekers have this FOMO and this pressure that I got to join one of the programs or something, a retreat or a community. And I'm telling you, you don't. You don't need to jump into whatever shiny object is out there. And in my work also, Anushka, like I have a very weird marketing strategy in a way. Like I keep telling people, stay away for a while. Like, just explore. These are the books. Read the books. I have 200 episodes on my podcast. Listen to all of them if you want to. Because when you join, I want you to join out of excitement, not fear, not this vulnerability. And this has been the pattern for years and years, because I want to live an easy and content, and meaningful life with this, because it gets very crazy when the, when the volcano erupts, really. Because if you are too vulnerable and you have joined a community, many times your mind will start to play the games. It's going to bring a lot of fear and trauma, and it's a relationship you're getting into. It's a spiritual relationship, and when you are not in alignment with your own authenticity, your own vulnerability, you may choose bad relationships. Like, in school, we are not sure of who we are, so we hang out with just, like even bullies at times. They keep bullying us, but we still keep showing up, to them. That's what happens in spirituality also many times. We do not choose mindful relationships because our relationship with our own inner self is scattered a bit. So I suggest, first of all, let go of this impulse or need that you need to join one of these
Right.
communities. Number two, build your own authentic practice. Take 6 months to 1 year, or at least few months, to read, to learn who you are. Above all, know your artistic expression. You got to know what your creative outlet is. The whole idea of spirituality with mantra chanting and doing all of this, it's good, but that's a very little part of it. I do not teach that tantra where you close your eyes and you're only meditating. I bring art a lot.
Right.
Get into writing, sing your songs, make a movie, write a movie, like I'm a wannabe filmmaker in my head. So, because if you know your artistic outlets, others will have a very tough time manipulating you, because art will always save you. It's always going to come to your rescue. Meditation plus art, and then you will know what teacher, what community is right for me. And the right teacher will make you free, independent, just like love does. It makes you free. It doesn't trap you. It doesn't chain you. In the teacher, like in that documentary, you saw many were chained emotionally, spiritually. There were
And financially.
there were mental shackles, financial shackles. And the right teacher will set you free, just like a right lover will set you free. A right, divine consciousness will set you free. Your wings expand. Yeah.
I think it's always a warning signal. I mean, I've had clients and people that I've worked with who've been indoctrinated, who've been manipulated by people who claim to be spiritual advisors or leaders in that kind of field. And I always say to them, if people are telling you that you have to do X, Y, and Z, and that this is a requirement, that's a red flag.
Yeah.
If people are telling you that you have to give a certain percentage of your income, that's a red flag, right?
Yeah.
And if you're doing things that make you so uncomfortable and that make you feel on a very basic level that you feel threatened or unsafe, that is a red flag. And a lot of people will ask me, how do I know which kind of discomfort is the discomfort that's healthy to push through, and which kind is the kind that I should listen to and retreat?
I think this is again that self-work becomes so important. Imagine you were raised by, parents who were controlling or constantly punishing you verbally or in a certain way, and then you end up attracting similar romantic partner who also was manipulative, and you got tired of all of them, and now you seek a spiritual community. Now I won't be surprised if you end up in a cult who's repeating the similar pattern, because the problem is, this is what your body or mind is so used to. This is the familiar way. And this is why I feel it's so important to trust the unknown and allow yourself to be in a uncomfortable space for a while. It's going to feel lonely. It's going to feel challenging. But you have that power. So there's a mantra in the tantric traditions, aham brahmasmi, which means I am the extension of the universe.
Wait, can you say it again slowly so we can really hear it?
Aham brahmasmi. Aham means me, I. Brahmasmi means the divine consciousness. The mantra is so powerful. It's like an affirmation. I am an extension of the divine consciousness, and the universe or the divine consciousness is an extension of me. Then how can I be alone? I'm not isolated, because there are forces within me expressing themselves through me.
Right.
And I've been, in my school years, college years, and even now as an 38-year adult, I'm majorly introvert. I have social anxiety issues. And when I told my family I want to be a speaker and writer, they're like, you hate going in public. How can you be a speaker?
Yeah.
And they were not wrong.
Right.
But till this date, this whole energy that I'm not alone, there is a power within me and around me. It helps. It's there, and I'm not a believer. I question a lot. I don't believe things simply because they are on the paper. And I do feel there is energy that speaks through you, that makes you express and do things. But you will be disconnected from that energy if you're operating from fear or constant comparison or the need to please everyone, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So for people who've never meditated, for example,
Yeah.
can people just start meditating by themselves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. Like I tell this to people, if you're reaching out to me to learn to meditate, you don't need me, because it will take 5 minutes. What's meditation? It's breathing. Again, a brand will complicate meditation. They have to sell the meditation program. So in reality, meditation is as simple as breathing. I mean, it is breathing really, but a conscious breathing. So I call it, so I actually said that, conscious breathing. That's how I define it.
Right.
So the way I always tell everyone, and I do it myself, conscious breathing is inhaling of the breath, holding of the breath, and releasing. Do it for 5 minutes, and then watch what's happening. Witness. Learn to be alone with yourself in a room. No music, no phone, obviously. Just sit with yourself. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, perfect.
Yeah.
Anything beyond 10 minutes,
Right.
even more amazing.
Even more amazing. Then you're a guru.
Then you're a guru.
You're your own guru.
Exactly.
Right?
Someone told me this, I forgot. Guru means G, you are you. So guru means you are you.
Uh-huh.
I think that
So we are all us.
exactly. So when you become you become your own guru.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's stepping into yourself, really.
Always.
Yeah. I mean, when I did this Vipassana meditation, we were obviously meditating like it was crazy. It was like all day. It was 4 a.m. to 4 or 5 p.m. with 1 or 2 hour break. But when I went back to meditation years later, I realized that, I wanted to meditate for like a really long time. I wanted to do my and for me, a long time at that time was like 20 minutes was a really long time.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And I tried doing like 20 minutes and it was impossible because my brain was attacking me, And so what I realized was if I do 5 minutes every day, it's better than doing 20 or 40 minutes once a week. And so consistency and little increments add up.
Yeah.
And sort of teach your nervous system to how to self-regulate,
Exactly.
if you will.
It's a habit at the end of the day, right? So 1% improvement in the habit plays a big part. I actually brought in a much more disciplined meditation in my journey recently. I needed that, in the last year or two. So I installed this app called Atoms. It's by James Clear, who wrote the book Atomic Habits.
Atoms?
Atoms.
Okay.
And it's simply, a documentation of your habits. So you press the phone like a little strongly and it documents, okay, you have done this thing today.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
So like a bookending of like telling you.
Exactly.
Like,
building habits.
good job, you did it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I installed that just to, set certain few habits because I knew I needed to go a bit deeper. So writing, meditation, and daily walk. I added that, and I've recommended that to so many people. Install any app or do it manually on a notebook.
Right.
It's really a habit at the end of the day. And do not compare your way of meditation with someone else, lower or higher. Because again, do you have self-reverence? If self-reverence, self-love, self-compassion doesn't exist, then no technique can really help.
Right. So hopefully from this talk, people are going to start maybe being encouraged to meditate a little bit and just take meditation as breathing, take their spiritual journey with patience and kindness for themselves, with curiosity. And as a coach and as a spiritual advisor and as an author, you're available to help people if they need assistance, not only with meditation, but with
Yeah.
every aspect of their life, because I would imagine what you do translates into every area of people's lives.
Yeah. I take so much joy in what I do, how I do it, especially how I do it, because I see my own arc in this, my own journey reflects so interestingly well, to me, because there were many times when I really questioned whether there are any takers for an authentic, deeper spirituality. And I can tell you there are many takers, but they are all looking for a safe space, really, where they feel seen and heard. And I do have podcast called The Leela Show. There's plenty of 207 or 10 episodes at this
Yep.
point.
Yeah.
I keep recording new one. I'm very lazy also in that.
Yeah.
So I try my best to
Put it in the app.
right. That's a good idea. I've never
Right?
done that actually. Yeah.
Well, Chandresh, I'm so happy that you've come back to Los Angeles. I'm so happy that I'm going to get to spend more time with you.
Same.
And we'll be able to bookend each other and cheer each other on. And thank you for being one of the gurus and one of the spiritual advisors that is authentic, that is trustworthy, and somebody who never sold out and felt the need to sell yourself.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you, and I thank you for your time and your friendship.
Wow, that's a lot of heavy words. My heart feels very warm. I'm honored to be here. And I've seen your journey in so many layers and seasons and waves. I'm forever proud of you, forever love you, always with you unconditionally. And thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
Yeah.